Welcome. Today is an extraordinary day, a milestone for Chicago women in architecture and a milestone for me. It's our first CWA virtual awards ceremony. We'll just have to imagine all of us enjoying the beautiful view of the Chicago River and skyline where this event had originally been planned in May. No doubt that 2020 is one for the history books. COVID-19 has derailed all our lives in ways large and small. It has brought us sadness, grief, and uncertainty about our futures. It has also called upon the creativity of architects to redesign the everyday world in ways we have never thought about before. In this darkest of years, today is a bright spot. We all made it to the month of August, and we're here to celebrate, so let's make the most of it. Throughout my career at Illinois, CWA has played an important role. Here's a quick overview of my connections with you starting about 30 years ago. I'm reminded of an often cited quote, Elizabeth Martini's 1921 advertisement in a local newspaper. Only girl architect lonely, wanted to meet all the women architects in Chicago to form a club. As one of our CWA members, Susan King, has written in a book chapter, that ad led to the formation of the Chicago Women's Drafting Club, which later became the Women's Architectural Club of Chicago, the antecedent of CWA, one of the longest lasting organizations of women architects in the nation today, almost 50 years old. Decades after Martini placed that ad, as I first joined the architecture faculty at the University of Illinois in 1984, as the one and only woman amidst 60 male colleagues, I shared those same sentiments. Discovering CWA was a hidden treasure. So a century later, thank you, Elizabeth. CWA has had a special impact on me in many ways. At your retreat in Galena, Illinois, back in 1992, I heard some harrowing stories. They lit a spark. They made me want to find out more, not just about the candid experiences of women architects, but also those of other underrepresented architects, like African Americans, Latinx, and Asian Americans. About a decade later, this research led to my book, Designing for Diversity, Gender, Race, and Ethnicity in the Architectural Profession. CWA is featured in my chapter, Networks of Power. Almost 20 years later, in 2011, CWA and Carol Ross Barney Architects hosted an exhibit called a.DOT, Architects Doing Other Things. Over 50 architects participated. I submitted one of my photographs, Taking the Plunge. Although I'm best known as an educator and author, I could now reinvent myself as an artist. Going to opening night, seeing so many CWA members' creative works on display was a thrill. It gave me confidence to do even more. I've since had my photos displayed elsewhere, and I'm sharing some of them with you today. I'm grateful to CWA for bringing out my artistic side. For the past 30 years, many CWA members have hosted my classes in your offices, shown us your exciting projects, offered us pizza and snacks, and joined us on campus as guest speakers and design critics. Since this is a Lifetime Achievement Award, it gives me a chance to share some personal reflections with you today. Here's a quick overview of schools where I've studied and taught, which may be a little bit boring because I've had the same job for the past 36 years. I've been lucky to call myself tri-coastal, having lived in the East Coast, West Coast, and Midwest. Here are some of the high points of my career, my books and awards, including today, plus some of the media coverage I've received over the years. Here are some of the places I've been lucky enough to travel, both for business and for pleasure. Both my parents were the youngest of 5 children. My dad, Harry Antoniadis Anthony, was from a very poor family raised by a single mother in Skiros, Greece. His father died when he was only 6 years old. My mom, Anne Skoufis Anthony, also of modest means, was the daughter of Greek immigrants who started their new life in Bangor, Maine. We had many family visits to Greece to meet our relatives. I've been told that at age 3, I was a fussy customer who refused to use many of the restrooms there, perhaps a harbinger of things to come. An unusually bright student, Dad received a life-changing scholarship in the late 1940s. Escaping war-torn Greece for graduate studies in architecture and urbanism at the Sorbonne, where he received his Ph.D. While in Paris, he worked for the famous architect Le Corbusier and for the American Embassy on the Marshall Plan, where he met my mother. He went on to become chair of the Division of Urban Planning at Columbia University. He chronicled his life story in a personal memoir entitled A Lucky Man's Life. Did he have an influence on me? The answer is yes. So did both my parents, as well as my sister, Mary Ann. They were always my biggest cheerleaders, my biggest fans. Years ago, when my parents were still in fine health, I interviewed them in detail and donated their videotaped oral histories to Chicago's National Hellenic Museum and to Columbia University. I encourage everyone here today to capture your older family members and friends on video too, before it's too late. Okay, so next, in the spirit of self-reflection, I'd like to inspire you with some life lessons interspersed with a few of my own short stories. Life lesson 1, adversity. Learn from it, overcome it, focus on the bright spots. Some of you may remember my husband, Barry Riccio. We were married for 20 years. He joined us at the historic CWA retreat in Galena, where he was the only male in attendance, and he made quite a hit. Sadly, the next year, at age 38, Barry was struck by a rare and virulent form of cancer. Every day brought the uncertain, the unpredictable, the unknown, the feeling of dangling off a cliff. One doctor warned us that we were, quote, sitting on a barrel of dynamite, unquote. Barry passed away at age 46, almost 20 years ago. Our patience, persistence, and perseverance kept him alive far beyond all doctors' predictions. We chronicled our 7-year emotional roller coaster ride across 5 states, scores of doctors, nurses, and medical staff in our book, Running for Our Lives, Our Odyssey with Cancer. Ever since that day, my motto has been, every day out of the hospital is a good day. Here's a far less ominous story. While working at an unnamed architectural office, the indoor temperature was freezing, requiring us to work in our winter jackets. A female coworker and I went to our boss's office to complain. He instantly phoned his maintenance man and screamed, "Hey, turn up the heat right away. I want my broads to take off more clothes." Decades before the Me Too movement, we just scurried back to our cubicles and got back to work. But I never forgot that comment. It inspired me to keep my antennas up about how women are treated in the workplace. 30 years ago, my proposal for a new course, Gender and Race in Contemporary Architecture, mysteriously disappeared for at least a year or two. I had worked on it for months and submitted it to our school curriculum committee to review, but I never heard from them. After inquiring countless times to find out what happened, I was just about ready to give up when a colleague finally came to my rescue, rediscovering it from the bottom of the pile where it had sat for too long. You will hear shortly from former students who have taken that course and the lifelong impact it has had on them. In all this, I'm reminded of some wise words that my former student, Rodney Howlett II, son of an African-American pastor, shared with us when he visited my class years later. Don't be bitter, be better. Life lesson 2, uniqueness. Carve out your niche, capitalize on it. Perhaps my niche in architecture can best be captured in the words of the late great congressman from Georgia, John Lewis, who passed away recently. Make good trouble. My 2 areas of expertise for which I'm best known are environment and behavior, how spaces and places affect people, and diversity in design, how spaces and places affect different kinds of people in different ways, and why it's so important to design for them as best you can. Neither came easily or was an easy fit. Grant monies were near impossible to come by. My research proposals never fit neatly into a checklist. Instead, they were almost always out of the box. But I didn't let the lack of funding stop me from doing important work. Years ago, at a conference of architectural educators, I still recall a conversation with a rather self-possessed dean. He also happened to be very tall. At the wine and cheese reception, he looked way down at me and decreed in his booming voice, "People like you don't belong in architecture. You belong in the psychology department." He wasn't the only person to say that to me. I'm pleased to report that I've proven them all wrong. Some of you know my teaching, writing, and advocacy on public restrooms. I love having carved out this special niche. Restrooms affect us all. They're in every single building that architects design, and we all use them. I'm proud to be the only citizen to have testified before the US Congress alongside the former mayor of Washington, D.C. on behalf of potty parity. Why it's unfair for females to have to wait in line to use public restrooms while males zip in and out in a flash. And I love hearing from former students who send me photos of unusual restrooms they come across during their travels. One even contacted me during her honeymoon, the ultimate compliment. Life lesson 3, rejection. Live with it, learn from it, be proud of it. What are some famous rejections you may not know about? Theodore Geisel, Dr. Seuss, had his first book rejected by 27 publishers. Lady Gaga was dropped by her record label after 3 months. Upon receiving the news, she cried so hard she couldn't talk. I've had a slew of rejections, and I bet we all do. We just need to talk about them, not shove them under the rug. My first book, Design Juries on Trial, a taboo topic about students' private, sometimes devastating reactions to public criticism, took years to find a publisher. I could decorate a wall with rejection letters. Here too, I came close to giving up. I spoke about my research at countless conferences and kept collecting data along the way. But at an Association of Collegiate Schools of Architecture conference in Chicago, my good luck charm, I ended my presentation with a plea. Is there anyone in the audience who can help this research see the light of day? If so, please let me know. An editor from Van Nostrand Reinhold introduced himself. The rest is history. And I still remember the day I received my first book contract. It was one of my best moments ever. My more recent book, Defined by Design, was yet another long story. And even harder since this time, I raised the bar for myself. I had my heart set on a lifelong goal to write a book about gender, age, and body biases in design that would reach a popular audience. So this time I needed a literary agent. It's very tough to land an agent. They receive hundreds of queries a day from aspiring authors and rarely answer back. It took several years to secure an agent. It took over 2 years after that to finally land a contract with an excellent publisher, Prometheus Books. I still remember the day my brand new book arrived at my doorstep. It was February 14th, the best Valentine's gift this girl could receive. Life lesson 4, praise, give it, get it, remember it. A few years ago, some of you attended a special holiday I invented called 33.3, a third of a century teaching Illinois architects. I hosted this event at our new Chicago Architecture Center on Wacker Drive. Too bad, but our university doesn't pay too much attention to milestones like these or even to retirements. You're lucky if you get a cake and a card. But it's something I always wanted to do, and I wasn't even retiring. 33.3 had a nice ring to it. About 100 people attended, including many former students. I asked 6 alumni to speak, each from a different generation. I was their teacher, yet they taught me. And I thanked everyone for that. It was one of my favorite days ever. So too was receiving the video tributes that you'll be hearing shortly. As they started arriving one by one, I felt like I was unwrapping presents on Christmas morning. Hearing from former students is the best gift any teacher can receive. So thank you, CWA, especially Megan Moyer, and to all those who contributed for giving me this wonderful Christmas present in the middle of summer and in the middle of this pandemic. What have I learned from reflecting upon my lifetime achievements and the behind-the-scenes stories that I shared with you today? Don't wait till you, your family, or your friends are 6 feet under or scattered across the sea to pay tribute to each other. Don't wait till an organization like CWA gives you a Lifetime Achievement Award. Think of all the people whose lives your work has touched. What has been your impact on friends, family, clients, and colleagues? Reach out to them and ask them to tell you how. Save their stories. Give yourselves an award now. Invent your own holiday. Celebrate. Create memories. Take lots of pictures. capture the spirit of the day. During challenging times like these, it's so important to focus on good things in our lives and take advantage of good times wherever we find them. Days just like today. And when we do that, somehow these good times are magnified and they feel far better than ever before. I am honored that so many of you took time out of your busy summer schedules to join us today. This event reflects a great deal of work on the part of so many people. Special thanks to our CWA officers and to the CWA Foundation for selecting me for this amazing Lifetime Achievement Award. Without a doubt, today is one of the highlights of my career. And thank you all for enriching our profession, our beautiful city of Chicago, with your creativity and talents in design. You have each made our world a better place. Most importantly, I hope you and all your family and friends are staying healthy, and please be sure to stay that way. Thank you very much.